Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kids were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. But they fought with expert timing. There were funky Chinamen from funky Chinatown. They were chopping them up. They were chopping them down.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your host, Rob and Steve from the Real Sharks Podcast. And we're going to be doing a segment of Let's Talk About. And the movie we're going to talk about is Three Ninjas. That's right, all of them. We're going to talk about all the Three Ninja movies. So recently, I had a chance to kind of go back on remnants of my childhood from this 1992 classic. And for those of you who have never seen Three Ninjas is essentially a movie. It's a series of movies about three brothers who visit their grandfather every year, and he's a ninjutsu trainer. It is centered around the three characters known as Tum Tum. These are their ninja names that their grandfather gives them, known as Tum Tum, Colt, and Rocky, which are some of the most American ninja names I've ever heard.
All time.
But we'll make do. We'll make do. And it stars Victor Wong, the famous Victor Wong.
He's been in Tremors. He's been in a lot of things back in the 90s and 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But Three Ninjas gets a rating of 5.3 out of 10 on IMDb. But should it? See, me and Steve went and watched it. And let's go ahead and just kind of kick it off to the first start here.
Forget.
Now, see, there's something interesting about this if you haven't noticed, and I believe it's because this movie has the wrong music. Let me put in, for example, Grandmaster Ip Man's music. See, behold the power of music. See, the Academy said that one of the reasons this movie was not very good is because it didn't want to know what it should be. But, I think if they just put some epic music behind the fight scenes, they would have been like, oh my god, this is amazing. Because music brings out the epicness, as funny as it is. But anyway, back to this original 1992. I don't want to say regurgitation, but it's definitely a regurgitation.
Shut up! Not you. Kids.
Yes, I definitely think so, man.
So, first of all, Steve, what do you think about Three Ninjas?
Well, as a whole, are we talking about just the first film? Because
let's just say that as a whole.
As a whole, I feel all right. So, it's very 90s. The movies began in 92, and I believe they ended in 98, with the last one. And I feel like the first three were okay. They were pretty good. Not the last one. The last one kind of sucked. But they're pretty solid films. I feel like these, it's very kind of polarizing too when you think about it. Three kids, three little adolescent boys holding down the film as lead characters. There really wasn't anybody else who was on screen. You had some characters, right? You had some adults, but they were quirky, wacky characters that we're going to get into that go with the music. But I felt like it was a solid film. I went back and watched it now as a fully fledged adult, and I was loving it.
I agree. I was too. I think it's a great, solid franchise from 92 to 98, full of so many tropes and stereotypical racist jokes that we had forgotten a movie in the 90s could have. But let's start with the first Three Ninjas, because I actually find it to be kind of, what critics initially said about this film was it didn't know what it wanted to be. And I kind of agree with that. When I went back and watched it, it is a very odd type film. You have the grandfather. First of all, I love, Steve, I know you loved it too, how they would cut Victor Wong in and out from like another true martial artist, and he was
Who's
just
doing
like,
all the
"Whoa," and
things?
they cut back to him real quick, and he's like, "What?" And then it would just be his face. But then it reminded me so much of that scene from Epic Movie. Remember when what's his face is fighting as the lion, and it's like the Asian guy doing all the fight scenes.
Yeah,
That's
definitely
exactly
that. Yeah.
what it was.
And if
So
anybody's asking, like, yeah, it wasn't like that. No, there's literally a scene where he's doing backflips, and it would fast cut.
yes, you know the scene I'm talking about.
And he would just be like locked in the pose, like he did not do that.
Yes. And then you had the antagonist in the villain, known as Snyder, played by Ryan Rad Kinsley. This guy could easily be Steven Seagal's brother, or like Steven Seagal's
younger-
body double.
Oh my God, that's such a good comparison. His younger, slightly more crazier
Yes.
than him.
Yes.
Definitely
I was like,
that.
they got this guy who's like Steven Seagal in this film, and they could maybe they couldn't afford Steven Seagal himself. Maybe they were like, we'll get his body double. I don't know, but I
don't
thought
know
it was
what-
I thought it was an interesting character.
Stereotypical, bro. He was so stereotypical for his time. He had the slick back hair and a ponytail. He was like a sleazy businessman that also knew karate. You know what I
That
mean? It
also
was
employed
weird.
ninjas. That employed ninjas that could beat the FBI with swords. That scene where they drop in and take out the whole FBI was so
Yeah.
great. That scene is
It was the
amazing.
greatest.
Thanks
And
for
they have like
dropping in.
yeah, man, like the guy was like employing ninjas, right? Which was whatever, but they looked like the Foot Clan. They had like these scuba goggles on, and it was like weird, you know what I mean? And they actually placate on it. I think like Tum Tum jumps on their shoulders and like tip taps on like one of the dude's like goggle things. It was ridiculous, and they sounded like dudes that just worked at the supermarket when they would like talk. It was ridiculous.
But essentially, Three Ninjas is about these kids, and the film does drag on to a sense of where it doesn't really know what it wants to be, whether it wants to be kind of a spy thriller or an action kung fu movie, but at least it gives you the overall teachings of what ninjutsu should be about: mind, body, and spirit. It tries to teach kids, a little bit of some honor. But there's some interesting things about the film. First of all, the original cut was more violent, and Touchstone Pictures had to tone it down, which I think is hilarious. When you think of some other
Kids.
films today, you're like, "Oh, that was violent." Because let me show you. I wish I could go in a time machine and be like, "Let me show you some violence." Okay. There were actually as we were saying, there's actually 4 Three Ninja movies. Most people know them as only being 3 of them. There's actually 4. And in the 4th movie with Hulk Hogan, the entire amusement park for the movie had to be rebuilt. Yeah, they remodeled it basically. We haven't even gotten to the best part. Is the 3 other antagonists of the films, the 3 surfer guys.
I must say, I would most certainly consider getting radical on some lonely, misbegotten beach with this babe.
These
Yeah.
guys
Love them.
are the 3. Yes, they're
Dude,
basically
you could just
the.
call them the 90s. You could just say they are the 90s. They were just that
Yes,
much
they-
of like stereotypical. Dude, they had like one of the guys looked like he was in like a rock band. The other dude was like he's got the backwards cap on, and he's got the
Yes.
like earring that's hanging down. He's like, dude,
Some
we're here to
some
rob
of these jokes. Yes, some of these jokes were so good and so on the nose. Like when I watched back, I was like, "What?" He's like,
First we feast, then we felony.
you. Yeah. That is such a
was
great
like-
line, dude. I laughed so hard
Right.
at that point back and looking at it.
and then when he busts in, they're like, "Whoa, cool room!" Like every on the nose joke you could imagine, these guys were able to pull it off in such a funny way that kept you entertained. I forgot how entertaining these guys, because I thought the guys in the 3rd movie were really entertaining. But so the first movie essentially ends with the boys saving their basically being kidnapped on a boat, because the movie goes from their house house, them trying to do like almost a Home Alone-esque type,
Yeah.
you know,
Taking
defense of their home to
for-
being on a ship
for guys.
like Navy SEALs.
Yeah, oh my god, like out of nowhere. And this is where I also agree with the review for this movie, because it was starting off as like these three kids that were defending their homes against these burglar types. But then there's this sub story going on with the grandfather and this Snyder character who has like a bone to pick with the grandfather. And it came out that the grandfather trained him, and you know, he used his like abilities now to kind of take over some type of evil corporation. You really don't know. Just like Bob said, he has ninjas taking down the FBI. What more do you want? Like, and then it ends like you said. Like the ending scene is them going to like this crater ship where the grandfather's there being like kidnapped by Snyder. The kids now have to go rescue the grandfather on this ship, and it is the shenanigans ensue. It's just ridiculous. It also gets kind of violent. I remember this scene where Snyder actually fights the grandfather in the end, and he is like choking the grandfather out, right? He's like crap out of him, and then like he's holding him up, choking him, and then the grandfather does this thing like shoves like candy down his mouth when he's choking him, because like the whole thing is Tum Tum, the youngest of the kids. He's named Tum Tum because he's like eating a lot. He's eating a lot. He's always got candy, and like every single film, which I love. That's a consistency you gotta love. This kid's got like some type of candy. These films. Yeah, like in every scene, this kid, the young kid, has some sort of candy in his hand or in his mouth. It's great. So the grandfather takes the candy, shoves it down Snyder's mouth, and just like whoops him pretty much.
Had a budget of over $65 million and grossed $29 million. That's a commercial success.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
Oh, wow. And then it's also a fun fact that the second movie was a childhood favorite of Kim Jong-un's. Not even joking.
Interesting.
So you know, fans, that Three Ninjas has some legitimacy as being a dictator's #1 fan favorite. This is a Disney film too, at that, which is crazy. But Disney because it bought it. That's why. Right.
They bought the rights to it, so technically it's a Disney film. But back in the '90s, it was a standalone. Like, you know, you just get it. You get it. It was like one of those movies you rented. You loved it. You know what I mean? You watched it over and over and over again.
The international version was never released in the United States as well.
Yes.
But we're gonna move on to my personal favorite, and one I'm probably gonna sit there and gloat over for quite a bit here, which is Three Ninjas Kick Back, which is the second installment of the Three Ninjas series, in which the boys basically it's exactly the same movie almost. But
sort of, yeah.
What's interesting about this one, which I absolutely love, and which I think it got worse ratings than the first movie. But if I was to tell you, hey, I got a film that's about this ancient samurai sword and dagger that these two people fought over, and basically there's a legend about the dagger that can open a cave of gold, and basically whoever gets it, you know, will have the key to this cave of gold. It's like, wow, that sounds like a really, really cool premise to a movie. It's like, yeah, that was Three Ninjas. I don't know how much more exciting or what more in-depth of a story you wanted, but that was pretty in-depth. So, you know, I just think that was a pretty in-depth premise to have of a film.
Yeah, oh my gosh, for a kid's film at that, and I feel like they just upped the ante. They knew what they were all about with the establishment with the first film, and they didn't divert from it. You still have the characters, except for the actor for Rocky, I believe they changed. But other than that, all the other characters were there. The grandfather was there. And this time, it was sort of like the sequel to Karate Kid, where he goes to Japan, they go to Japan. And it was
great. A homage to ninjutsu and Japanese culture. There were some Japanese jokes, and which I loved a lot. I thought it was great. It gained a lot of negative reactions. But you had these three dumb antagonist goons that chase them around who are employed by this guy's grandfather, but these guys are worse than the other ones. These guys are like 3 rock stars who are borderline brain dead, especially the drummer, man, with the weird hair. Oh god, this guy is ridiculous.
Yeah,
But-
like he's counting down. He's like 1, 2, 3.
3, 4, yeah, 3. But what I love again about these movies is how ridiculous the premise is if you break them down, because you have which I love, because once their grandfather is telling this story about, yeah, there was a legend about the dagger, talking about this epic tournament that they were going through that looked like it was taken in secret place, and then he's like, and then the kid tried to steal the dagger from me, and then he sliced his face, and he's all like, what happened to that kid that stole your dagger? And he's like, oh, just childhood games long ago. And then you cut to a scene where this guy is apparently a multi-international businessman who has the training and ability to break into the Japanese museum and then escape via hang glider with the samurai sword. This guy has guards. He has a huge home. This dude could hire everybody, which he does, to do his work for him. But he's like, I'm going on this heist for the hell of it.
Yeah, dude. It was so like ridiculous because you look at it and you're like, that guy did it? Like him? What the hell? This movie was so fantastic, man. Like I said before, it had the comedy, but it was also, it's the most serious out of all of the other ones. Because just like you said, they do the tournament, which the grandfather was speaking of, which was pretty cool. Like you have like this mystery. They lose, yeah, because like in the first film, they had the redemption of the bully, where they win
kid
over
who's
the
bully. Baseball player now too in the new one. Same antagonist too. There's also the sub antagonist in these films, which are basically the same kids. Which
the same bully kids,
yeah,
but they're just on the baseball team. But each kid has an arc, which Rocky is like trying to prove himself in the martial arts field, but he's getting beat, and he gets beat by like a girl nonetheless.
Yeah. Oh, Colt gets beat by a girl.
Oh, Colt gets
because
beat
of his
by
anger, which is something consistent in all the films. Is his anger gets the best of him. Rocky's leadership is always under question. Tum Tum can never be serious.
Yeah, Tum Tum can never be serious. No one takes him serious.
Yes.
Even when like some points he's trying to be, they never really take him to. Which is like, I mean, you can make the comparison to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know, in a way, which is done. It's fair, but like Rob said, this is super serious.
Right.
The homage to the Japanese culture when they kind of go on that montage of them like going to places.
Super good soundtrack.
Super good soundtrack. The funny thing where they keep bowing to everybody, like
yes,
they're just like bowing,
which is something real. It is a joke, but it is something that is real.
Right. Yeah, it's real. They made a joke about it. I mean, they made another joke about Tum Tum being like a sumo wrestler.
I was just getting to that. What is one of my favorite part is how he does make that joke of being a sumo wrestler, but then the guy actually employs a sumo wrestler to fight them, and he's like, oh, and he's like, oh yeah, and they're like getting ready to sumo fight for real, and the boys are taking on that. I mean, this was such like people missed. Like Bruce Lee could have wrote this movie if it was in the 70s because it was so ridiculous. You had this evil guy, has an empire, has all these guys employed to him, and he doesn't have to really do anything, but he does it to do it.
Yes.
But we're basically drooling over this one a little too much because you can tell our audience we did in fact enjoy this one a lot. But on to the end. The end is really, really good. There's two endings of this film, I feel like. One is the lesson the boys learn, which is about patience and determination, which is, you know, especially with, I think it's with Rocky where he throws the bead, the ninja ball, into the guy's gun, because that is actually a really good scene too, when he's all like, there is no cave of gold, when they insert the sword in there and all the skeleton samurais are in there and you're like, whoa, this is nuts. And he's like, there is no cave of gold, and the guy's like, no, and he pulls down the veil and the wall is just gold. And then he's
Yeah.
like, and then this guy who's apparently has all this money is like, that's right, I'm gonna kill you for this gold that I don't
Yeah.
need.
I don't need. First of all, let's reiterate this for the last time. Rob has said this guy is
Loaded.
legitimately, supposedly loaded, like a millionaire businessman, corporate, top of the food chain CEO. He's paragliding as in the beginning of the film with a samurai sword. He wants the cave of gold. Why? We don't know. And he wants to now kill the grandfather for the gold, which he can't take out because it's like cemented into the wall.
It's like if Elon Musk moonlighted as Shredder.
Yeah, but then like he's trying to like kill us for the gold, like, right? You know, Elon Musk is like, sorry, I can't let you guys have this gold. It's like,
Like,
we
what?
didn't want it in the first place.
Right, you drug us here
yeah, he does.
because
He
they
does.
had the dagger. But this is just the premise of this movie. Now, if you can get past all that, our audience, this is a really good movie.
Yeah,
And this is
it's great.
And this one was actually the last one was directed by John Turtletab. Sorry if I said that name wrong. Yeah, and then Three Ninjas, which Kick Back, which was made in 1994, was directed by Charles T. Kaganis, which he's actually known for A Time to Die, Romeo and Juliet, Conviction, No Escape, No Return. So it's interesting. He's had some. Well, of course, he's also did Mortal Kombat Conquest, the TV series, which was in 1998. So that kind of gives you an idea of where this guy's idea was. Because like I said, we're drooling over this one because we liked it so much.
Almost.
I'd like to add too that Caroline Juko King, who played Mio in the film, she would later go on to be in Star Trek: The Next Generation and Come See the Paradise. Also in 1979's Dorman. But yeah, interesting. And this is probably going to be the last good one we speak about because then you had 1995's Three Ninjas Knuckle Up.
Yeah. I like this one too, though. This one's
Do you?
pretty. It's all right.
You
It's okay.
explain this one, Steve, because I missed this one a lot.
I think this one might be the most that because I own this as a kid. I watched this one the most out of all of the Three Ninjas movies. This one is it actually takes place in first off, this came out a year after. Let's just say that it came out in 1995, so the heart of the
It was
90s.
supposed to be the second film, but because of distribution, it ended up being the third film.
The third film, because then you're asking, oh well, why are they still kind of the same age? And the actor from the first film, who was Rocky, is now in this film. So he came back, you were thinking, but just like Rob said, this is supposed to be the sequel. There's like a Native American storyline here where the kids are trying to help this Native tribe and save their land, and they come across this like Native girl. Rocky's got like another love thing with this love interest with this Native American girl, but it's I guess it's okay for what it is. They're kind of being accepted into the culture while trying to contain themselves, because the whole thing about it is the grandfather's like, do not fight.
Right.
He's like, do not fight outside of the training. I don't care what happens, never fight. And Rocky is kind of like playing the Leonardo role in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's like, listen, don't fight.
You even have a waist dumper in this film.
Yeah, like, which was ridiculous, right? I mean, like, the whole premise is ridiculous. You have another trio, another like band of weird, crazy guys, and they're like these like okey doke cowboy dudes, and they're just like ridiculous to the max, bro. Like, they're just like the disc, because like they're supposed to be getting the disc that has like evidence. Yeah, they're like, yeehaw! It's just ridiculous. But I don't know. I felt like it was okay. They just didn't learn anything in this film. I felt like it was just empty. It was just like a Three Ninjas film, just to see more of them being quirky and stuff like that.
But you loved it.
It was yeah, I liked it. I watched it. I liked it.
All right, and so we're gonna get into the last one here, which is one I feel too is God, it's hard to really talk about this one too, which is Three Ninjas High Noon at Mega Mountain. This one starred the ever popular, fairly in his NWO years, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
Hollywood Hulk Hogan. There you go.
uh,
Hollywood Hogan.
this one essentially takes place in a theme park, right?
Yes, it does.
During their summer vacation with their grandfather. Um, yeah, let's see here. I mean, what else can you really say about this one, Steve? It was pretty much like all the other ones, except you had Hulk Hogan kicking ass instead of them. Basically, Hulk Hogan telling them what to do.
Yeah, dude, and it was bad, bro. Like it's Hogan. He's not going to be the greatest actor on screen. The kids are here. I think some of the actors, the kid actors, weren't even a part of this for the
No, they
most
weren't.
part. And this was, I think this is supposed to be them kind of grown up a little bit, right? And I don't know, bro. Like, I just could not get into this one. The only thing was kind of cool is the grandpa was in it.
Yeah, he's the only one in all of them.
Yeah, he's the only one in all of them. But dude, you have first of all, can I reiterate to everybody who's watching these films along with us? Thank you. But Hulk Hogan has hair. Okay, it's weird. He's first of all, he's not even like muscular in this
He's
film.
not
He's
even
kind of
Hulk
like an average. Yeah, he's just like a average build type of guy in the film, and then like he has hair. So it's really, really weird. Like you said, it's Hulk Hogan kicking ass more than the kids. The kids are kind of like just there to back up Hulk Hogan's shenanigans in the film. But you do have like other actors, like Jim Varney. He's in this film. Laurie Anderson is also in this film. It was just, I don't know. They just didn't. It wasn't enough.
It's interesting because it was produced. It was actually directed by Sean McNamara, who would later go on to produce Soul Surfer and
Yeah, he
Spare
did
Parts.
a lot of. Yeah,
And I also
he did a
want to
lot
point,
of films after that.
and I also want to talk about too before we have to backtrack a little bit on Knuckle Up real quick too. Knuckle Up was actually directed by Sangol Shin, who is also known as Simon S. Sheen, which literally, when you look at the filmography, was only a producer of mostly Korean films and foreign films, mostly known for South Korean films. So it's really interesting. You had a South Korean director doing this film.
Yeah, and how crazy is that?
I'm not saying that's like, that's the bad part of it. I'm just saying you had somebody who had no knowledge of American films doing an American film. It seems like each one of these movies too, as we've gone through them and we've talked about them, they've all been touched by various different producers and writers and directors. And it's just like, I think the second one was just kind of a perfect storm personally of something that was kind of like, as our co-host Luke says, lightning in a bottle for the first one. Because they had what they had for the first one. They thought it was pretty good. And then they did Knuckle Up thinking, this would probably be a little money, but maybe, probably during the distribution, they were like, we're going to have enough to do a third one. So let's go all out and make this epic kind of story about the grandfather. Because Three Ninjas Kick Back, if you really kind of watch it, it almost seems like an end to all the films. Like there shouldn't be any more after it. It's technically the third film, even though it is it's the second.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. I feel like it should have gone in that way where Three Ninjas Knuckle Up should have been the second, and then the Kickback should have been third because it ends. Like, we didn't touch base on it, but the kids were playing baseball. Colt gets his redemption of quelling his anger, and he gets the shine. Like, that was another thing that he felt like he was always left behind. They all get the shine. And Knuckle Up, they kind of they help out the clan, and that was the ending. And then in Mega Mountain, it was just like Hogan. It was just a Hogan film. So right. I just feel like there really wasn't, and that was the last one. So it wasn't really any closure. I feel like that one should have ended. Kickback should have been the end.
I think it's quite unfair to call these movies a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ripoff. I do think it's because as I was watching them, yes, they suffer from the 90s. They just suffer from being 90s movies. But when you really kind of watch them and sit there, and I always parallel to what's out there now, I'm like, if these movies had a change in music, or had a change in just a little direction of tone, this would be just as popular then as now as it was then. Well, a little more popular. I just don't think they're bad films. I think they deserve their own little place. I don't think they're definitely, the films that you've rented off the shelf for your kids at Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, but they do have their own spotlight in their own way. They're not just, I don't think they are just Karate Kid and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ripoffs.
You think they're cult classics?
I would say they are in a way. What I do find interesting about, especially the first three films, and as you said, there is consistency. The writers at least had this idea to go back and be like, Colt suffers from anger. Rocky suffers from lack of confidence and leadership. Tum Tum is never serious. And they do incorporate that in, most of the other films, which I think is, a better trade-off to say than most sequels. I mean, how you look at Transformers and it's like one movie makes no sense to the other ones. At least you can watch this one and be like, oh, yeah, I get it. That's Rocky, Tum Tum, and Colt there. I mean, Transformers, It's like, this is like a whole nother goddamn film.
And the thing about it is, these movies are quirky and they're for kids, and there's going to be, like Rob said, like zany music and scenes that are just like ridiculous, right? Adults just not being. I mean, like each adult in each of these movies could have just like killed these kids, right? If it was serious, but this is a kids' film, so you got to think of it as kids are watching this and they want it to be like at least admirable for children. But they're solid. I feel like, again, you can go back and enjoy it. Me and Rob have distinctive taste in movies, and we just happen to agree on this series. Like, except the fourth, we agree there, where it's not good, it's pretty trash. But for the consistency of these films, like you said, Rob, like, to keep that going with these characters and to build and grow with them is good. Like, they're not just being zany and silly to be zany and silly. They go through ups and downs and problems with each other, and with situations, and you know what I mean. It's a good ride. It's a good film to watch. All of them are. Yeah.
But that's gonna actually be our special on the Real Sharks 3 Ninjas special. We hope you enjoyed it. Again, this is Rob and Steve on Let's Talk About